Well, thank you. Namaste. Namaste. Okay. So that's all of the Hindi I know. Um, but I'll teach you a word in Texan, I should say. Howdy means the same thing. It's namaste. I'm very happy to be here today. I was very impressed with the first panel. I think the first panel was better than the second panel, to be honest. Can I have a round of applause for them and not us? Never mind, that's okay. People with disabilities exist all across the globe. I'm sure everyone realizes that. And in different countries, there are still places with much success, I think, that we all have to learn from. And one of the first things that I observed with the first panel was how wonderful it would be having them as a role model for anyone, for a person with a disability or not. I thought getting in the 25 degrees centigrade water at the hotel pool was challenging. I don't even pretend to know what it was like going through the channel. But there are lots of examples around the world that we can learn from, and by having sessions like this and sharing our successes, we can go farther faster, because when a person with a disability does not succeed, it's just like, frankly, any other person who doesn't succeed in your community. It makes your community weaker, makes your family weaker. We all need to succeed. I think one of the ways to look at this is to attack it from both a tactical, short-term, or strategic, more long-term way. So for example, I'm staying in a very nice hotel, and I appreciate that. But I can also tell you that there is a hotel chain in Spain where every employee is a person with a disability. Every employee. And the hotel is just as nice as the one that I'm staying at. Another thing, well, they have a chain of, I believe, 37 hotels, and they have laundries that exist all over Spain. I think they have 40. There's another organization in Spain where they not only put technical pieces of machinery together, but they manufacture those pieces, people with disabilities, all with disabilities. So it is possible. Now, one thing I noticed about that hotel in Spain when I stayed there is they had pictures everywhere. It was incorporated into the decor. And when I was there, they featured many of the Spanish Paralympians. In the very first picture, as I walked in the door, you saw a wheelchair rugby Spanish player just smashing a USA player. And so that made quite an impression on me, because we have a very good wheelchair rugby team in the US, but not every time. And it was so natural to see photographs, murals, ways of making things more accessible, just naturally presented. It was just natural. There wasn't anything about, look at this, this is abnormal. From a bigger scale, I was in Thailand last year, and one of the things that people with disabilities in Thailand did, it's a very long, narrow country, as you probably know, was that they traveled, I think, 1,400 miles, 1,400 kilometers from one end to the other, raising awareness of what people with disabilities can do. Certainly traveling that long, with that many days, with those many challenges, was significant. And at the end of that, their goal was to have a national number that a person with a disability could call for anything. For an emergency, to learn how to build a ramp, how to procure equipment, how do you get a job. But there was what we would say in the US, an 800 number, a toll-free number that a person with a disability can call now. One of the things that impressed me about the panel is that they have careers. And most of us are, I think, holding people with disabilities to the idea that they need a job. What we found in my community in Austin is that if we got a person a job and didn't prepare them with training and education, there's a difference. They had that same job a year or two later, and then they typically lost it. and then we would find them another job which they also lost. When we started training people for career paths, like most of us do, frankly, in the able-bodied world, they started having success. So sometimes I think we chase symptoms. Let's get everybody a job because they don't have jobs, versus what they really need, which is how to go from one job to the next, to the next, to the next. And then the last thing I'll say about that is that it came to my attention late in my career that the people who had jobs and careers that my clients wanted had a different motivation than I did. Most businesses exist, in fact, all businesses exist to make money. And if you have a skill that they need in order to make money, you have someone that they want. Many of us are stuck in worrying more about the person as a social worker would as opposed to as an employer would. So we have a tendency to put on the wrong lenses from time to time. I can tell you that in our organization, we choose career paths now. Not that some people start with jobs, don't start with jobs, because if you've had no job, if your parents had no job, you need to start to understand what work is. That's one thing. But getting to the next step by being in touch with them, continuing to assist them as they pursue a career, is quite another. I'd encourage you to consider some things that you may or may not know. Dolly spoke about the importance of data. That's how most business makes its decision. They use data. They don't use their hearts. They don't use their stomachs, as many of us in this room do. And if we know that the kind of training and education we provide to our clients will make them successful in that job, and we can prove that with data, there won't be any question about whether they can walk or see or drive. It's more about, can they do the job? So one of the largest challenges that we all have is to have data, and that of course opens up a whole different can of worms, because we have to communicate with the same language. Our data has to be good, and then we need to know how to use it. So I'll turn it back to you.